start off here today with our basin director's report. So we're going to start off with Director Cloud.
Well, first, thank you and good morning, everyone. Just to start off with a little technical information, my basin is awesome. We have some really good projects going on, particularly in Telluride and in Mancos and Dolores area and Natarita. We still need a lot of snow. We don't have very little snow in our area, so that's one of our main concerns. We're also very interested on the system conservation pilot program, if that's going to be reauthorized and what that really means for our area. Now that that's kind of out of the way, I do want to thank Paul, Jessica, and Jackie for their time and dedication to this group and this organization, representing a lot of people in our area or in your areas, and particularly in Colorado. I'm just kind of thinking about the different conversations I've had over the past couple of days. And Jackie had mentioned the peaceful transition of power yesterday, and that struck something in me because we as people are going through a lot of transition lately. And what Director Sakata had brought up in a couple of meetings ago and then yesterday, and thinking about humanity as leaders, and whether you have a title or not, please check on your family and your communities, act as good humans, and just remember humanity. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional, but when we talk about challenges, I think we really need to change our mindset and think about them as opportunities to be the good human, to be a good representative, because in our communities, we're more than just a name, a title. We're also part of that community, and we're connected. And if we're too busy fighting each other, we're not good. We're not good for ourselves. And so, gosh, I don't even know why let me collect myself here for a second. I was on the news for New Mexico because we don't get Colorado news, we get New Mexico news. And we were talking about the missing and murdered Indigenous women's, the leadership, and how Colorado has been very progressive. And next week, I will also be here at the Capitol testifying on getting a license plate to bring more awareness. And the conversations we had this morning at breakfast about if we are not acting as good humans and we're too busy fighting each other, Colorado is going to miss out on a lot of things that are going on in the smoke screens when we're too busy looking at each other's personalities, each other's political views, belief systems, and not looking at each other as humans. And I honestly believe Colorado is better than that. So, and what I've learned from Jackie and Paul and Jessica, and I'm using your first names because that's who you are. We're humans. Just because we have a title doesn't mean anything. We are more than capable of taking care of each other. We just have to be willing to do it. And what you have done for your people is a lot. And I really hope that our state and the people that you represent in your districts really understand what you have done and how much time out of your life you have taken out to represent them and for the amount of pay that you've gotten for it. Um, money means, it doesn't mean anything. It's what you do as a human to help each other. And um, the humanity and reaching out to each other and checking on each other and the mental health is really going to be important over the next few years and beyond, because water is going to be a scarcity. We're seeing it in my area. Again, we don't have snow, but we have lots of people. We have lots of challenges or lots of opportunities. And I'm glad to see that the Bureau of Reclamation is finally giving the Upper Basin the money that we deserve, but whether we really get it or not is, I think, something else. But it's been the recognizing that there is the need for it, and that we, again, as humans, we can do better. And it shows with others recognizing how much our communities need and how much our communities depend upon the water, because it's not just Colorado, it's our entire upper basin that depends on the snow. It's what the snow is, the water, it's the commonality that we all have. And if we can remember that in our day-to-day lives, I'm hoping that the change starts here with us, and that we show everybody else that we can do more than just sit in a room and talk about water. We actually put our effort into each other and elevate each other. So with that, thank you to everybody, and thank you for listening to me and letting me ramble. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Director Cloud. I think that's a proper way of starting. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions or comments? Director McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like everyone else yesterday, I want to say thanks to the B team for your service. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you. One of the great things about being on this board is the opportunity to learn from each other. And I would say for each of those people, I've learned a great deal. So thank you very much. I'm sorry that Paul and Jackie aren't here to hear this in person, but Jessica, thank you. The Gunnison Basin Roundtable met a week ago. We had the privilege of over an hour of explanation of Regulation 87 and the rulemaking process for dredge and fill. But a significant part of the conversation at the roundtable was some concern about the decline in Water Supply Reserve Fund funding. As you could see from the two funding awards we made yesterday, the most important thing for the Gunnison Basin is repairing aging infrastructure, which holds all the senior water rights in the basin. And as these funds are dwindling, we won't be able to support those projects. So we're hoping that there can be some adjustment to that. And by the way, the chair of our roundtable is here to keep an eye on me, Wendell Kuntz. So I do have a feature presentation this morning, just perhaps to create a little scientific education and perhaps a little levity. So if we can get the slides up, I can start. So I'm going to talk about wet meadows. And as you know, I'm an attorney and this is science. So I'm going to have to rely on the notes that I made here. So forgive me for reading a little bit of this. But the Upper Gunnison Basin has over 2.5 million acres of sagebrush ecosystem. And wet meadows within that ecosystem are rare. About 2% of the total landscape is wet meadow area. But these areas are disproportionately important to wildlife and livestock. So the wet meadows are sponges. because during the spring runoff, they soak up and they store water in the soil. They reduce the floods and then release the water slowly so that sustains the water flows and maintains a higher water table throughout the late growing season, which is roughly July 15th through September 30th, when the other uplands are drying out. And the late growing season corresponds with the federally threatened Gunnison sage grouse brood rearing season, which is when the grouse rely on the wet meadows to raise their chicks. But by 2009, approximately 85% of the wet meadow habitat has been modified, destroyed, degraded by various human activities, such as old wagon trails, water diversions, grazing, recreation, and fire suppression. The impacts led to erosion in wet meadows in the form of head cuts, channel incision, related vegetation loss, and resulting in lower water tables and loss of that wetland function. People were concerned about that deterioration of this important resource, and that resulted in the creation of the Gunnison Climate Working Group that was coordinated by the Nature Conservancy, and that was focused primarily on Gunnison sage grouse habitat, because at that time it was an endangered species. It has since been reduced to a threatened species, but nevertheless still requires landscape management. 2012, the scope of the project expanded and became the Wet Meadow Restoration and Resilience Building Project, which is coordinated by the Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District. So this project is a collaborative watershed scale effort to restore the wet meadows and riparian areas, enhancing ecosystem resilience in the face of drought, to help wildlife species, and also to help ranchers who depend on these habitats for their living. To mitigate the detrimental impacts of wet meadows loss on wildlife and humans, this project uses what we call Z-dike style rock structures and other low-tech restoration techniques to restore the hydrologic and ecologic function of these wet meadows. Bill Z-dike is a pioneer in this restoration activity. He has developed this rock system for preserving the wet meadows, and I'm going to show you some examples in a few minutes. These low-tech technologies are all made of natural materials. They call it the sticks and stones approach, and they're strategically located to help stabilize the head cuts, capture the sediment, slow water down during runoff events, and then hold and spread water on the landscape, which increases infiltration and enables wetland plant species to persist or even expand. So this is the goal. These are the goals of the project. Because I assume you can all read, but anyway, it's important to the community. Z-dike on the left, tutoring volunteers on his landscape preservation techniques. Bill's from New Mexico, and he created this idea in his second retirement. And he's been doing it for about 25 years. We were able to recruit him to come to the Gunnison Basin to oversee the initial project structures and to tutor other folks to be able to continue his work. Restoration techniques that the project uses, they're all a little different because every location has a unique requirement and needs unique restoration or rehabilitation activity. Are some examples of these restoration structures. This is called a one rock dam. It's one rock high. That's why it's called a one rock dam. And it's used to impede the flow of the water so that it will slow down and spread out up above and create the wetland characteristics that are so valuable. This is a different structure. It's called a Zuni bowl, and you can see the original one up on the top there, what it looks like when they first install it, and down below is one that's partially completed the restoration. one of my favorites. You see at the top of the wet meadow, it forces the water into a spread so that it comes down more softer is what they tell me. And then at the bottom, it spreads it out and it kind of wets the meadow down below and maintains the wetland characteristics. I just like the name. After pictures, just to show you how effective this project has been over the last 10, 12 years. On the left, the volunteer crew that has put together the rock structures and the structure itself just after installation, and then looking at that same location 2 years later. You can see that the vegetation has been restored and much healthier wetland environment. Where you can see on the left what the area looked like before the restoration and then what it looked like 3 years later. These are primarily hand-built. When there's a major effort, sometimes they bring in equipment, front loaders or track hose to help with major landscape alteration in order to set the rocks in place. And sometimes the rocks are just too big for humans to handle. So they do occasionally use equipment, but primarily they build these structures by hand. Here's another sequence of photos of the same location. Sometimes the restoration takes a little longer. I showed you 2 years and 3 years. This took place over 6 years, but you can see the ultimate result is definitely meets the project goals. This is a heavily organized partnership. All of these entities have contributed both funds and personnel and time to the project. The National Park Service, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Forest Service, BLM, and the Fish and Wildlife Service are the primary partners, both in terms of the effort and funding. Those groups and a couple of the other partners meet together all winter long and under the collaboration project. Amanda on the lower right is our coordinator. She coordinates these meetings. Each of these organizations sends a representative and they spend the winter planning on which projects they will take on during the summer, which projects need maintenance, organizing the crews, making sure the funding is available, making sure that the materials are available and the contractors are available to do whatever machine work is necessary. So as you can see, it's a very diverse partnership and it's got tremendous support both locally and regionally. What have they accomplished in the last 12 years since the project began? As you can see, there have been significant work done. Almost 2,700 structures and a lot of stream miles and wetland acres, and the Gunnison sagegrass brood rearing habitat is significant. And then every year, of course, maintenance has to be done. So I just got the maintenance statistics for last year, and you can see that they spend considerable time and effort to making sure that those structures are maintained and they continue to function as they're designed. Over the 12-year period, the total grant funding, actually this number is from 2022 through 2024. That amount of total grant funding is about $1.5 million coming from those agencies primarily. And then in 22 to 24, $412,000 was expended in supporting these projects. About 2/3 of the actual structure building is done by volunteers, but we do have different conservation groups that send crews in that come in for a week or 2 or 3 under the supervision of our coordinator, and BLM and CPW also have supervisors in the field, particularly when they own the property that's being restored. Professor at Western Colorado University, whose students and grad students participate either as interns or as volunteers in this program, and he is an amateur movie maker and rapper. And he made this a video to explain the project. So if you can run the video, thank you.
Welcome to Upper Gunnison Basin with a vast array of vegetation with herbaceous plants and flowers, pollinators
That's
and
our professor.
monsoon showers, supporting wildlife species so grand. Unique life resides on the western slope, threatens sage grouse and pronghorn antelope. Depending on wet meadows to survive, water essential for these species to thrive. But this once rich habitat is at risk. For these wetlands, the consequences are brisk. Over 50% have ceased to exist. So here's a syllabus. We're gonna get it back on track. The Upper Gunnison Basin is under attack. Invasive weeds and erosion are totally whack. Water, got to conserve that. Water. Stone by stone, path by path, the wet meadows restoration and resilience building project partners has done the math. Water, got to conserve that. Water, got to conserve that. The work has begun, the methods are sound. We're gonna rock the basin up and down. We're gonna beat the cheat, that invasive grass. Rock by rock, structures built in mass. Pulling the invasive weeds. Bringing back the native plants and seeds. Capturing the sediment from that water. Climate change, warmer temps and drought make conserving water more paramount. We've got to build the water table back up. So many gullies and channel have down cut, separating the stream from the lands. As the channel deepens, the floodplain disbands, dropping the water table below. As the vegetation dries and dies, water flows all away. We're gonna get it back on track. Wizzy dike rock structures, we're fighting back. Unnatural erosion we can only counteract with water. We've got to think like water. We've got to think like water. Reverse erode, which we call aggradation. Building sediment for wet meadow creation. Aridification is a symptom. Concentrated channels draining the ecosystem. With redistribution structures in place, the water simmers down, rebuilding the base. Welcome to Upper Gunnison Basin. Welcome to Upper Gunnison Basin. Brought to you by elevation, wind, snow, and rain. With science and helping hands, may this beauty remain. Welcome to Upper Gunnison Basin. Let's get to work. We're gonna get it back on track. We're gonna get it back on track.
That they're staring, not starring. I just thought. I can answer questions if you have any. I don't know how I can follow up on the rap music, but I'll try. Those are all Gunnison, Upper Gunnison staff members that are in the video with our professor. So
Awesome. Thank you, Director McCown. Anybody have any questions or? Oh, Director Vasquez, please.
That was a wonderful presentation, and I've known about these structures, but having the sales job of your professor is just amazing. I'm curious, what do you know what percent was done on public land versus private over the years since 2012?
I'm sorry, Barbara, I couldn't quite hear that. Could you say it again?
Do you know what percentage of the projects were done on public land versus private land?
It's about 65% public, 35% private.
Yeah.
But the ranchers who have invited the project onto their property have all been very pleased, and the word is spreading. So I think that percentage will change over time.
Great presentation. Thanks a lot.
Anybody else? Director Brody, and then we'll go to you.
So I think you've just thrown down on the music video challenge. And I think we need to start a new rap category.
I know Denver Water had a great one a few months ago, so I thought I had to stand up to the.
Director Wynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director McLeod, I'm curious, is there any direct incentive by landowners to participate, or is it the indirect benefit of the ultimate product?
Yeah, you'll have to say it again. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was curious if there's any direct enticement of the underlying landowner to participate in these kind of activities?
No, it's just a matter of showing them the results and letting them know that they can significantly benefit from it. One of the very first projects that the Wet Meadows project developed in 2012 was on a large ranch up on Ohio Creek. The rancher was the president of the Upper Gunnison Board. So he said, come to my place, do a project, and I'll show my neighbors. And since then, the word has really spread very quickly. And the ranchers come to the district and say, we'd like to participate. We've got a couple places that we think we could use the help. So does that answer your question?
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Director McClellan. Okay, Director Vasquez, where do you?
Yeah, what terrible luck to be following that great presentation. Just, yeah, maybe you can rearrange it next time for me. First of all, again, I want to thank the B team. I have learned so much from all three of you. For me, B means best. You guys have been contributors and educators of your colleagues and project managers in your own basins in many ways. It's been wonderful to learn from you, and we'll miss you terribly. In terms of the North Platte Basin, we've had a very warm and quiet beginning of winter until the latest cold snap. Currently, our snow water equivalent sits at 86% of median, but it's quickly heading in the wrong direction. And as we all experience the aridification and climate weirding associated with what humans are doing to the planet, we'll have to see what this winter brings. We also had a basin roundtable meeting last Tuesday, and delighted as always to see Jeff Rodriguez's smiling face at our meetings. We had a presentation on infrastructure improvement project sponsored by Owl Creek, and that will probably come to you in May. We also had the Dredge and Fill presentation about Colorado rulemaking, which was of great interest to the roundtable members, solicited quite a few questions, and trying to understand what the ranchers consider normal operations is excluded from those rules and what is covered by those rules. But Jeff's participation was particularly important at this meeting because we had another WSRF grant application presentation that raised a number of questions, and it was great that Jeff was there to field some of those. With that, I yield my time. Thank you very much.
Director Vasquez, does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you. Director Wind.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's okay. I'll just have you advance the slides. I don't know where the clicker might be, but thank you. I want to express my appreciation also to Paul and Jackie and Jessica. It's a misfortune that I won't spend more years on the board with you all. Thank you. But that short time I have learned a lot, and I know that our professional paths will cross many, many times as we progress through our career. So thank you for your service to the state of Colorado and certainly to your basins. Next slide, please. Oh, I got control right here. Director Sakata, you had this very picturesque view of livestock drinking from a tank in your presentation. I'm not sure which country you might have been traveling to. This is more representative of what is actually going on in eastern Colorado, and unfortunately, cattle can't eat ice too well. But it's been cold. We got a little bit spoiled through much of December, and winter finally hit, and ice breaking has become a tradition. Snowpack, as compared to maybe other parts of the state, we're extremely blessed thus far, albeit early. Just a rundown of some key snow stations that feed into tributaries that feed much of the South Platte, primarily below the metro area. And you'll see that we're 110% of average, with pretty consistent numbers throughout those weather stations, throughout the Big Thompson, Boulder Creek, the Poudre, and the St. Vrain. But again, only 55% up the curve. So a lot of good and a lot of bad can happen the next 60 to 80 days. But right now we're quite blessed. Just wanted to put a plug in for the St. Vrain Left-Hand Conservancy District. Mr. Cronin puts on a really great symposium just west of Longmont. The symposium this year by he and his staff, his board, and their water users is on February 27th. I believe it starts at 9 a.m. and that'll be published on their website, I understand, here in the next week or so. But Sean is fortunate to have some really engaged water users on the St. Vrain left hand that come to that gathering and provide a lot of input to water managers throughout his service area. At that gathering, the attendees will be viewing Mirasol, which we all saw when we were in the San Luis Valley. And part of that will be discussion around water preservation. In the lower right-hand corner of your screen is a opinion piece that Northern Water has published here in the last few days across several forums. In part, celebrating great work that we have done over many, many years in Colorado in developing a supply within our basins, and recognizing when those supplies depart, when they're exported for future growth, that has implications and sacrifices to parts of our state that I don't think any of us want to see in future generations. And I'll go on to say it's not an experiment. We've got a proven track record that things do not go well when you remove those supplies from a remote community. So look at your closest news paper, perhaps online, and you'll see this opinion piece which rolled out in the last couple of days. And if you have thoughts, please give me a call. And then lastly, I just wanted to reflect on the comments made around the Perkins County Canal by the state engineer, AG's office. And I just wanted to put a plug in that as we dialogue around this really critical issue, in my opinion, it's really hard just to look at one segment of kind of how the South Platte's administered, kind of the rules of the river, if you will. And it's really important to look at not only the compact, and I call it compact durability. It's a great compact, but we should think about it at all times and think about how to preserve the compact as we know it. Of course, more conversations around the Perkins Canal, and certainly an expression of appreciation to AG Weiser, which just this morning pushed off a letter to Sedgwick County Commissioners that I think was very thoughtful and to double down on the state's commitment to stay engaged around condemnation notifications coming from the state to the west. And in that same conversation and thinking about the South Platte River, I think you also need to think about future development and how that occurs, its impact on the compact, albeit the compact's limited in its influence, at least on paper, to District 64. So that's Washington, Logan, and Sedgwick counties. The reality of its administration, and if life was to change significantly, that impact just by virtue of administration would change how water is utilized, stored, delivered upstream of District 64 and into District 1. And then lastly, and a lot of us have our eyes on the importance of the recovery program in Nebraska, in which Colorado has significant financial contributions, but also has a water contribution. And that recovery program in its current phase will expire in 2032. And we need to prepare for what that next increment of that program looks like in light of the compact, Perkins, and future development. Stay tuned. 2032 seems like a long ways out there, but to me, that kind of sets the cadence and how these future conversations will play out between Colorado and Nebraska. But again, I just ask you all to think about all these things in tandem as we move forward with a really challenging conversation. Mr. Chair, that's all I have to report this month.
Thank you, Director Wind. Does anybody have any questions, comments? All right, thank you. Director Phil?
Okay, few things to talk about in our basin. We also have been benefiting by what seems like sort of a northern flow this year, I guess, in terms of snowpack delivery, precipitation. And so especially the way the Arkansas kind of, if you're going upstream, it sort of hooks straight up north there at the upper end, right up into the summit area, right? Like the center of the mountains. We're at about 125%, I think, right now, particularly for the upper basin. So, you know, projections for stream flow and water supply so far are pretty good. And we'll see what happens like everybody else. But right now we're doing pretty good in that regard. We also have pretty good cash flow coming into the Arkansas basin. As you heard about yesterday, 250 million presumably coming in for the Arkansas Valley Conduit and from the Bureau of Reclamation. That's just huge. We're up to almost 600 million now, which at one time would have basically paid for the entire project. Now it probably will pay for half, but we're making good progress. And it was great to hear Keith McLaughlin yesterday talk about how WRPDA is also working with that sort of delivery from the main trunk line, the conduit itself, spur lines out to the communities. There's about 50,000 people that are going to benefit from this project and won't have to deal with selenium and radionuclides in their drinking water. But they're served by probably 40 different, municipal water suppliers. And again, this is small scale, disadvantaged communities. So really need a lot of help at every step of this program to bring it to fruition. And but it just feels like we just have a groundswell going right now, and we're going to get there. And they are, they're running that big pipeline under U.S. highways and under ditches and under the railroad. I mean, it's really, really quite a sight to see, and we're pretty excited about it. Another issue, not so positive, last spring, I guess it was, we had a pretty massive malfunction, you could say, at the Mount Elbert power plant, it's a power plant that's set kind of on the shore of Twin Lakes. It's a pump back hydropower plant. So probably 80% of the electricity they generate, maybe more, is by pumping water up the pipes to a 4-bay up above when power prices are cheap and demand is lower, and then dropping it down through the turbines at times of higher demand and higher pricing. And but there's also considerable water that comes down a conduit from Turquoise Reservoir to the forebay, and then they drop that through to make power. And so the whole Fry Arc project, for example, that water is delivered to Turquoise through the Boosted Tunnel, and then that water is run down the conduit to make power, and then ultimately released from Twin Lakes into the river and on down to Pueblo and beyond. So there's two turbines at Mount Elbert Power Plant, massive. They're about somewhere around the diameter of this table area, and they have to be lowered into place. It's a huge engineering feat. Well, one of these failed. It was beyond its recommended lifespan, honestly, and they've been doing everything they could to keep it maintained, but it failed last spring. And to replace it is probably a 3-year process. So one of the turbines has been offline and will remain offline for quite a while. The other one is just as old. And I think because of that, they have actually stepped up the scheduled maintenance. And so we've had multiple periods now where both turbines are offline, and they can't move water from Turquoise to Twin. There's no bypass. That was not envisioned for some reason. So if the turbines aren't functioning, then you can't use that conduit to deliver water, much less make power. And so this has definitely impacted how the Fry Arc project and the Bureau of Reclamation are able to manage the water to the best benefit of non-consumptive beneficial uses like fisheries, recreation, and the environment. They've done a great job so far. They've been doing all kinds of workarounds, but this spring, because we have both turbines down, water they need to move from Turquoise to make room for this spring's imports, they're not able to move. They're reluctant to move it down Lake Fork Creek. We usually try to move all this water and make space during the winter, and then really lower the flows in the spring, because we have the brown trout fry emergence happens in April, early May. We have several insect hatches, aquatic insect hatches that are massive, massive pulses of food for the fish in the spring prior to runoff. And those are water temperature dependent, which the flows influence the water temperature. Certainly, the higher the flows, depending on the time of year, the higher flows, I guess, can sort of moderate the temperatures, but you need warm water in the spring for these aquatic insect hatches. So it's a bit of a concern for us, just because it looks like, because of the maintenance going on, the one turbine will come back online probably at the end of March. So they're going to have a lot of water they need to move at the time when we really need to bring the flows down. And so we're kind of doing a dance. We have good communication. We have regular calls with about, I don't know, probably the 10 biggest players on the Arkansas are there to try to coordinate and achieve these non-consumptive benefits. But it's tough, because if you really get this wrong and the water's too cold for the bugs to hatch, we have found it takes about 10 years for the bug population to rebuild itself to where it historically is to support the fishery. So that one's kind of got us a little worried up there, I guess, and we'll just see what happens. I know that there's really great intentions all around, and it's just trying to figure out how to make it happen. So we'll keep working on that. On I guess maybe the more personal side, over the last couple months, we had a really great CCI conference in December. I want to welcome Wendell Kuntz as well, my colleague from Delta County, or former colleague. Wendell's been a great voice for water at CCI, and I got to put together two different panel discussions this year at the conference. One was about how local government and county commissioners in particular can support agriculture through kind of local water policy and water involvement. And Robert was a part of that panel. We also had Bill Long from Southeastern and Jim Yan, a former colleague here at CWCB, and Russ Sands. It was kind of his final act. In fact, he had left CWCB already, but he came back to talk about, I think it's 2.5 and 2.6 in the water plan that involve looking at the benefits of not doing buy and dry change cases on agricultural water rights. And darn, I'm blanking on what the other one was. Remember, Robert? 2.5 and 2.6. I don't know. It's the kind of the two priority actions. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Just doing more to incorporate agriculture into land use planning and water planning. So that was a really interesting panel. And then we did another one on conservation finance for counties. I've talked before about our conservation finance measure in Chaffey County, and we had Christian Farrell from GOCO and David Weinstein from Trust for Public Lands, and a gal that I'm blanking on her name from the Colorado River District to talk about their conservation finance measure and just how aging infrastructure and water projects really ought to be considered perfectly eligible, maybe recipients for a conservation finance type measure. So even if you're out on, say, the Eastern Plains, you could be able to raise money locally, especially off sort of pass-through traffic, let's say, at your truck stop or whatever, sales taxes that you could use for local match for aging infrastructure and help your ag community, maintain a successful future. So anyway, really well-attended panel discussions, and it was fun to be there with Robert. Robert turned up to, my last day as commissioner was January 14th. And it was kind of an ignominious ending for me in that I came down with COVID the last week I was county commissioner, having been Board of Health chair through the entire pandemic and emerging unscathed. And then the beast caught me at the very end. And but Robert beamed into my last day as commissioner and provided some testimony on my behalf that was much appreciated, particularly given that our local Democratic Party chairman gave testimony giving my colleague from the Democratic Party credit for most of the things I'd done. It was another ignominious part of the ending to be sitting there online sick at my home and listening to this lady just wax on and on. So anyway, Robert, my whole family appreciated you showing up. Really did. And so, yeah, I have transitioned. I'm no longer county commissioner. I'm now general manager of the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District, which, those jobs, you probably relate. They're about water, but they're also about managing sort of an enterprise and everything. It's a business in a lot of ways, right? And so just a lot of work on finances and employee relations and administration, that kind of thing. But getting up to speed on that, and I think it's going to be great. As regards our outgoing directors, I've been just sitting here the last 2 days looking around the table and thinking to myself, it's going to be okay. I sort of knew Robert before he and I served together. I definitely knew John from the past, but I'd never met Brad or Lorelei or Nathan or Barbara. And in all honesty, I hadn't met Paul or Jessica or Jackie prior to serving on this board. And so I've been reassessing my grief at their departure, and realizing that whoever replaces them is going to be awesome too. But a few words about them. I'll start with Paul. Paul, it's just been a really awesome experience and ride getting to know you, working through some challenging issues in our time together, and but also really having some fun times along the way. And your message of hope every 2 months has, I think, been just a great reminder for all of us here. And especially when we all know that you've had your share of challenges during this time. You know, quite frankly, I thought you would be with us another 3 years. I thought you were going to be our chair this year. And you certainly deserve some sort of emeritus status for all you've been able to do in terms of influencing both the substance and the spirit of the conversations here at the board meetings over the last 3 years. So really appreciate all you've done and brought to this. And I think we all know you're not done in this arena by any stretch. And so thank you. And yeah, keep the faith. And to Jessica, I mentioned to you sometime in the last 2 days just that if I have a frustration with you, it's that every time I was thinking like, man, this is where we really need to hear from Jessica, she's like, sorry, I have to recuse on this one, and walks out. It's like, man, really need her. And I think her response was, well, I may be a little more at liberty to speak in the future once I'm off the board. So anyway, I've really enjoyed getting to know you and working together. Your counsel, I can see why you have the job you have. Your counsel is extremely valuable and thoughtful, strategic, and it's just helped me think a little differently about how I approach things. Still tend to go off on maybe a little less circumspect than I should sometimes, but just really have enjoyed it. And your Denver Basin has certainly benefited from your representation. So thank you. And then Jackie Brown, I know she's out in Craig today, I guess, but you know, Jackie and I worked on the Arkansas River at the same time many years ago, and didn't know each other, but it's kind of funny to think that we were hitting the same waves on the same days at times in our lives, and certainly know a lot of the same characters. You know, I think as you've heard most comments this morning, like, in fact, Director Cloud started it off right. I mean, basically talking about, not so much talking about water, but talking about the humanizing imperative that she sees in communicating, remembering that we are all human beings, and that, you know, so often there's that great quote that I've heard a number of times lately, you know, it's something like, everyone's fighting a battle that you know nothing about, right, internally. And it's such a good thing to remember. The 8-minute comment that Jackie made yesterday, I think really hit home to me. There's just a lot of this in the air. There's a lot of challenge. And I guess I mentioned that just because my time getting to know Jackie over the last 5 years has certainly been a time of challenge for her in her own life, in her career, in being a mother, and working through the challenges of being married to somebody and all those types of things. It's been really powerful to share some of that with her, and to, you know, just go through this challenge that we all, or these issues, or this charge that we all have on this board, to go through it with such a great group of human beings. And I think my time with Jackie has been special in that regard, but also opened me up to the value of everybody in the room and the value that they bring, and also maybe the fires that they've walked through to get here too. So thank you, Jackie, for your friendship and for your service on this board. And as was mentioned yesterday, I think some of the challenges that you had to face as you were chairman. So I will leave it at that, Mr. Chair. Thanks to the B team. You guys have been awesome, and I look forward to meeting your replacements.
Thank you, Director Fell. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Thank you. Director Brody.
Well, thank you. And I'll get into more thank yous later on. But first, I thought I'd give a few updates on some of the work we've been doing in and around Denver. So throughout my time on this board, you've heard me talk about one of our major projects to remove and replace all lead service lines connected to Denver water system. This was a project that was a couple years in the planning process. We had to get a variance from EPA to implement it, as well as approval from CDPHE. And we are now 5 years into the project. And I am so proud of the team at Denver Water and our consultants and our distributors. This has just been an incredible success. Last year alone, we replaced 7,859 lead service lines. Our annual target was only 4,477. So the team just killed it. In part, we were able to do that because we were able to get some federal funding to accelerate and complement the dollars that Denver Water had already committed. So federal funding allowed us to replace almost 3,500 lines last year alone, which is a huge boost to the program. And with that, even though the program was originally anticipated to take a full 15 years to remove all of those lead service lines, now that we are 5 years in, we are more than halfway through replacing lead service lines. So we've replaced over 30,000 lead service lines, and we estimate we've got just over 29,000 service lines to go. So again, I'm just incredibly proud of Alexis Woodrow and our entire team working on this project. The other reason I continue to highlight this program is because this really reflects, Denver Water's commitment to ensure that everyone that we serve has access to the highest quality, clean, safe drinking water. But to me, something that I'm really passionate about is to help ensure that everyone in the state of Colorado has access to clean, safe drinking water, whether you live in Denver, whether you live in the Arkansas Basin, whether you live on reservation, whether you live in the Valley. This should not be a privilege of the few. This should be something that everyone can access in the state of Colorado. I recognize and I'm humbled by the resources that we have in Denver to implement a program like this. But it's incredibly important to keep talking about those communities within our state that don't yet have access to clean, safe drinking water, and to continue to work toward connecting everyone to a safe water supply source. Switching gears, I also wanted to highlight a project that we're really excited to implement in the Colorado River Basin. So through the reclamation funding, the B2E, the environmental funding, Denver Water applied for 2 relatively small grants, but ones that I think can do a lot of good. The first one is for a little under $5 million, and it's to replace, I think, 7 culverts in right-of-ways that we access and convert them so that they have safe and appropriate aquatic organism passage. So these pictures are from a project that we've already implemented. So The one on the left, that's the before. That's what a lot of these old culverts look like. And the one on the right is an example of a fish passage that we implemented that allows the channel to be reconnected and allows organisms to move through. The funding opportunity presented us the opportunity to accelerate work that we would like to do, but didn't necessarily have resources dedicated to just yet. So I'm hopeful that money will flow and that we'll be able to implement these projects. I think it could be a really good thing. And then the other small grant, which was for under $1 million, is to address some water quality challenges in one of our high mountain reservoirs. Just another example of how I think in the state of Colorado, we're putting those federal resources to good use, whether that's for water quantity and conservation, or whether that's to improve the environment. Since we're sitting in Aurora, I thought I would speak just for a minute about a project that the board helped fund several years ago that's being implemented as we speak in Aurora. So this is the Westerly Creek Restoration and Water Quality Project. I think we funded it, I want to say in like 2022, maybe 2021, thereabouts. It was a small grant from the CWCB in over $6 million project altogether. But the goal of the project is to restore the Westerly Creek channel. So on the left is the before condition of the portion of the channel that is now being reconstructed. And you can see, it's very straight. There's no riffles. There's, not a lot of variation in terms of the vegetation. On the right is a segment of the stream to the north of the work area. The picture on the upper right is part of the park and infrastructure improvements that were done when my neighborhood, Central Park, was redeveloped from an airport to a mixed-use community. And that portion of the creek used to be in a pipe underground when the airport was there. And as part of the development of the community, the channel was reconstructed, and there's just abundant wildlife there now. There's all kinds of beavers. We have some deer wander through, believe it or not, in Denver sometimes. We've had some turkeys and, all the little critters and organisms that live in and among the water and the banks. And on the bottom, that is now the project that is underway. It kicked off just a few weeks ago. Again, toward the left, you can see the current channel in its current configuration, and towards the middle and right, you can see where they're working on carving out that new channel that will connect from Aurora through Denver and provide not just environmental benefits, but also flood protection and recreation and amenity benefits for the community that is growing up all around it. So really cool project, and excited to see the work happen every time I walk over to Stanley to pick up food or hang out with my kids. Whoop. So with that, I just wanted to take a few minutes and say thank you. For me, it's been a true privilege to be part of this board and be part of the organization and help fulfill CWCB's important mission of aiding in the protection and development of the waters of the state for the benefit of present and also future generations. To me, being a steward of a resource as important as water in an arid state like Colorado is both a daunting challenge and also as Director Cloud pointed out, a huge opportunity. It's, you know, been wonderful to get to know so many of you, both on the board and the members of the staff. I'm someone who considers myself a lifelong public servant. I was part of the first AmeriCorps class before my current job. I spent a number of years working for the city and county of Denver. It's something that I feel very proud of and very fortunate to do, to get to dedicate my time to serve my community in the ways that I feel like I can do it best. When I sit around the table and engage in conversation with all of you, to me, this is part of government at its best. We come with open minds, we come with open hearts, we come with a genuine desire and intent to listen and truly understand one another. We approach our roles in the spirit of collaboration and in wanting to do the best we can, not just for the communities from which we hail, but for the entire state of Colorado. And that has been a huge honor. I've learned so much from so many of you. And I also want to thank staff members who don't necessarily get to be in the spotlight, but are a huge part of what we do and a huge part of what enables us to be successful and to be able to come and focus on the important decisions and the work of the agency. And so I want to take a moment and recognize Viola and Anna, who enable us to do our jobs sitting around the table. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I'm sure I only know a small portion of the challenges that they undertake to make us all be successful in these roles. So thank you. At a time when it feels like institutions of government are under attack and when public servants are under attack, it gives me a lot of hope and optimism to be surrounded by so many incredible public servants. So thank you. And to Director Feld's point, I am incredibly optimistic that these seats are going to be filled with even more capable and talented people. And I look forward to the continued success of the board, to continuing to follow the efforts and the important work. And I'm sure we'll stay in touch. You all know where to find me. Again, it's just been an honor and a privilege. So thank you all.
Thank you, Director Brody. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the report? Thank you. Here we go. All right. Which one is it? Is it the bottom one? Just moves it?
I think the top one, this big one.
There we go. It's interesting to watch everyone else's report and see the high levels of snow. You quickly learn, we put a lot of money into a lot of data and you realize sometimes we're wrong. If you look at the dark green line just above the black line, that's 2002. So we were wrong. That wasn't just the 1 in 1,000-year drought. So no, there's still time. I just say it's interesting when you look at how things are changing north to south in the state. This is at Cumbers Trestle, which is one of our most southern sites. And we have been below our O2 levels for quite a while. This is Lily Pond, which is farther north. See much difference? We're struggling there. Eric told me that there is a storm on the way, so I think we're going to be okay. But it's interesting to look at, because O2 happened. It's interesting to see the people in my area planning differently. In O2, the amount of planning was like, there's plenty of time. And then they go off about their business. Now they're looking at, okay, what's our strategy? What are we going to do? And as you know, in the San Luis Valley being one of the most southern, completely snow-driven basins, we are subject to snowpack. We don't have these crazy streams that come from a spring or anything else. If the snow doesn't provide it, we suffer. When you look at this, you can see that in May, the snow was completely out. That bottom black line became the lowest we had measured. Our rivers quit May 15th. The Rio Grande, the Canes, all of them. And so I don't know if you know much about farming, but not a lot of growing has happened by then. So it was a struggle. So we're trying to put together a plan that if we don't get the snowpack, what are we going to do about it? Last time we kind of cavitated on ourselves. We started pointing fingers. We started arguing a lot. We got very divisive about who was right, who was wrong, who was holy, who was not. And it was very difficult to make progress. It was difficult to move forward and be solution minded. And so that's what I'm encouraged about now. Even though we're looking at a forecast that may not be stellar, the attitude is different of how do we as a basin survive this. Let me show you something that we're seeing that's interesting. As you know, we worked with CWCB and the project's bill and everything to get a radar set up in the Rio Grande Basin. We were one of the first basins in the state to start using the LiDAR to start trying to prove this process. We now have a product that we're able to see by sub-drainage. I apologize, this wasn't quite as big as I'd like it to be, but if you look, we are now able by sub-basin to estimate acre feet of yield, not just inches of SWE. It's unproven right now, right? We're kind of in the science fair experiment side of this, but it's getting better. And we're combining LiDAR, we're combining the radar to build this. If we go back, you notice that our estimates were a 56% of average. If you measure actual acre feet in the basin, we're looking at about a 42.6% of average on actual yield. So whether it's going to make the biggest difference, we're not sure. This is still to be told. I think when we do our LiDAR flights this spring, it'll help us a lot to verify some of this. But the important thing is we're not just rolling over and quitting. We're trying to figure out how do we measure exactly what we have and then what's going to be our plan moving forward if it doesn't come to pass. Normally, like I said, we're showing a total right now of 106,000 acre feet. Normally in the Caneos Basin, we're running about 250,000. So that's where we are on that. That's where that average comes from of where we're looking. It'll be what it'll be. We can't change any of it. We'll just make a plan. So moving forward, with a change in the board, we sometimes in the work area, we tend to believe everyone's replaceable, or we say no one's irreplaceable. And I would say that's not true. It's not true. Like it says there, I think that the work that's done, someone else can do that work, but the individual is unique, and they can have that indelible effect on us. I think Director Cloud, you were in tune to the whisperings of inspiration there, and the way you started about the humanity of it matters. As staff changes, as board changes, yeah, somebody else will sit in that seat, but it won't be Director Brody or Director Boucher or Director Brown. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Short story for each one. Director Brown, this past summer, came down to the valley to a music festival. This might surprise you. I don't attend musical festivals, but her truck was giving her fits, so she called and I went over to help her fix her truck, and we got all the parts, and I had to go into the parking area where she had parked, and it was music festival parking. It wasn't lined out. It wasn't like, come up over this, around that tree, over this bush, and then you park over here. And so she met me at gate, and we're weaving our way through, and people have set up cones and protected their territories. And so she had to talk a couple people down so I could come through and, violate this space to fix her truck. One lady came out and kind of got pretty vocal with us. And I just looked at Jackie. I was like, and she jumps out of the truck, and she gave her the what for professionally. And she comes back in, she jumps in the truck, she closed the door with authority and says, all these people need is leadership. They moved their cones and We went through it. I've thought about that. And I thought, yeah, that's Jackie's approach to life. These people just need leadership, and here I am. So I'm gonna miss Director Brown on that. Director Brody, I remember sitting by you in Steamboat, and we had one of the Kinesis projects was coming up, and I didn't know whether I was supposed to recuse myself, and I was like, I don't know what proper process is. And Director or Jessica, I'll call her, like Director Cloud says, she's kind of, you know, she kind of has her glasses down. Sometimes she looks at me over the glasses like, are you going to be an idiot we got to deal with here? I could just sense it. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to be a problem here, Director. And she told me, she said, look, you've got to make the decision. If you can't be objective, you got to go. And I just so appreciated just what Director Felt said. Jessica, I've always trusted your opinion and the honesty with that, honestly, that integrity to say, I need to recuse myself. It was frustrating because we could have really used a lot of that expertise you have, but the respect and admiration we have for you being able to make that stand is, I mean, it goes without saying. We appreciate that. So thank you for the integrity that you have always brought to this seat that you've taken. Director Boucher was the first, when I first got called, he called me and kind of welcomed me to board, told me what was kind of expected. Got to ride with him when the board was down in the valley last year with he and Director Vasquez, and talk about some of the work that he's been trying to do in that very delicate walk that he's been making in his basin with some of the wildlife issues and some of the water issues, and trying to keep everybody on the same plate. And I thought, this is a man that, even though he may not be sitting here with us every meeting, is a leader in his community, and he has stepped up. And Paul, I hope the best for you and your family. And I was really expecting you to be the chair this year too, I think, but it is what it is. So appreciate you and all the work you've done and the example you are. Finally, if you look there, some of you won't know this guy, Peyton Valentine. About a year ago, this young man, okay, let me back up. This young man, age-wise, falls between my third and my fourth child. In small rural communities, we all wear multiple hats. One of the hats that I was privileged to wear was in our church. I helped with all of our young men. So when a young man turns 12 to 18, we had an organization, and I guess you could equate it similar to kind of scouting. You took them camping, you took them fishing, we take them to the lake, we take them snowmobiling and skiing, and try to just instill in young men just proper actions to be citizens, to be respectable people. And Peyton was in that group that I first started with. And so skiing, the lake, like I said, snowmobiling, all the things. He graduated from high school. He would go with my kids snowboarding and just, small, close-knit communities. He went to college, finished college, and he started working for us at the Conservancy District. And so about 2.5 years ago, he started working for us part-time, helping us kind of just do a lot of the clerical work and follow through on some of the grant projects. And his degree is in English. And so he's a very prolific and great writer. So he started doing more and more of the grant writing and helping us get some of those federal grants. Really was rising into a heck of a young man. He, about a year ago, started having some struggles. And like everybody, you don't know where it's coming from. You don't get to judge it. But he had need of some 8-minute conversations. And so having been around this young man most of his life, we got to talk to him a lot about a lot of the struggles, a lot of the difficulties. Started working through it, ended up getting married 8 months ago, and everything's great and going good. December 21st, they're out working on the farm. They're cutting some trees to clear for a fence, and a branch comes down, and that's the end of it. And so you don't try to make sense of things like that. There's no way we, in our feeble comprehension, can understand those parts of the plan. But I want to tell you, to that top quote, Another may be able to do the work, but the individual is infinitely unique and valuable and can have an indelible effect. And I appreciate when Peyton passed away, the phone calls, the outreach I got from the northern end of just our basin. Laura did, Ben did, a lot of people on CWCB did that knew him. And I just thought, like I started this, in '02, we didn't handle it correctly. We got divisive, we kind of cavitated in on ourselves. And I think of all the opportunities we missed to be human and to seek for a solution. And I just am so grateful that kind of a healing process has happened in our basin over this. And just the gratitude I have for people that reached out in a time of difficulty, because other stupid boundaries like a ditch or a water right or a driveway weren't in between us. So again, Director McLeod, I think you were spot on the way you started the reports. I've appreciated the ability, like Director Brody just said, to be on a board of just open individuals and the human element being able to help direct us in our actions. So that's all I have, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve with the three of you that are outgoing. You may be the B team, but you've always brought the A game, and we appreciate it. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions. All right. Over to Director Boucher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to everybody for the kind words over the last 2 days. I really feel quite overwhelmed at all of the heartfelt, very kind comments. I am so sorry to not be there in person. I had a procedure done on my ear, and while I was recovering, I caught a nasty virus that I'm now just starting to get over. Fitting to not be there as I'm sick for the last board meeting, so I apologize. I was going to show you all a slideshow of my ear, but Viola talked me out of it. Lauren does have some photos if anyone's interested in seeing, or shoot me a text. I'll be happy to send them your way. It's pretty awesome, actually. As far as not reapplying for a second term, it's really very simple for me. It's time to take care of my family and my health. I've been going at it for a long time, and there will be ongoing efforts and such, but I need to carve out a little bit more time for my family and my personal health. To my fellow board members, present and past, thank you for all of your leadership. Thank you for all of your dedication. And most of all, thank you for your friendship. I have full confidence in our future, knowing all of you as leaders. To Jackie and Jessica, the B team, there is a little secret here. I had to depart with you guys so that I could be lumped in the B team, so people would say nice things and help build my confidence. So that's another reason for being, I knew people were going to pick up on the B team, and so I snuck in on that one. It's been an honor serving with you both, though, and thank you for your service. To Becky, Lauren, and Chris, we've been friends long before the last 3 years, and nothing there is changing. Thank you for being mentors to me. Thank you for inspiring me to bring my best every day, to have tough conversations, and to get the hard work done to inspire others. To all staff, I wish there was time to call you all out by name. You're all very amazing. You may never fully understand how much you impress me. And so just to put it in as simple a way as I can, it is very clear why the CWCB is the best agency in the state of Colorado, and it is because of all of you. And on to my message of hope, which is also pretty simple. To my friends that wear floral pattern shirts on day 2 of board meetings, that was the secret to Lauren until right now, please continue wearing them. To my favorite water molecule counters, to all of my demand managers, to all of my fellow dragons, nothing is going to change my passion for water resiliency and meaningful projects. Nothing is going to change my passion for productive agriculture. You have my phone number, you know where the shop is, and the door is always open for all of you. Thank you to all of you for everything that you do. And I will truly miss you all, but don't worry, I won't be gone. Thank you. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Director Boucher. Appreciate it, Paul. Does anybody have any questions or? Yes, Director Woody, please.
Director Boucher, I got to say a few words about Jackie during her report yesterday, and just wanted to say what a privilege and honor it's been to sit alongside you at this table, whether in person or virtually. You, I think, exemplified the best in Colorado in terms of the way you carry yourself, the optimism that you bring to everything you do. And I look forward to continuing the journey with you and finding ways for our paths to cross, even if we have to take some detours to get there. Thank you.
Jessica, thank you so much. Very kind of you. And I wish that maybe everyone who works on water challenges could understand some of the amazing relationships that exist in our state between the East Slope and the West Slope and how we navigate challenges together. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Go ahead, Robert. Paul, I was just gonna say, there were easier ways off the board than trying to chop off your ear. But I do have the evidence, so I appreciate that. That was great to see before dinner. And also you say, I know the way to your shop. I actually do not, if you will recall, requiring a personal escort to find my way to Paul's barn on a site visit on a cold day several months ago. But I have faith that perhaps I could find it again if I absolutely needed to. So thank you for all your work.
Well, just ring me if you need another escort.
Thanks.
We'll make sure you find the way.
Thanks, Paul. You really are an inspiration. I really look forward to continue to work with you in my new role. And thanks for the explanation about the ear too, because I was worried that it was the clothespin that caused some kind of infection. I was afraid your lawyer was going to call me. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Robert.
Dr. Vasquez, please.
Yeah, Paul, you are a man of many talents. Does it include art? When I saw the bandage on your ear, I thought you'd done a Van Gogh.
You know, Barbara, other people have mentioned that. Believe it or not, in my high school days, I actually did a lot of artwork, and I actually still have quite a bit of that hanging in my parents' house in my house. One day I might surprise you, bring some art to a meeting.
That would be wonderful. Thanks for all you do, Paul, and you will continue to do as my neighbor.
Thanks, Barbara.
All right. Director Cloud just said if you bring some art, make sure you bring both ears. So.
Promise.
Okay. If it's all right, we'll go ahead and take our break and come back at 10:15. Thank you, guys.
Recording in progress.
Okay. We're coming back. We'll go on with agenda item 20. Jenna, ready to go?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jenna Batson, CWCB staff for the record. After speaking with Chairman Combs yesterday, we think these make the most sense for the board to consider in block, but I will defer, Mr. Chair, if your wisdom has changed on that at all since yesterday.
If something comes up, we can take them separate. Otherwise, we'll plan on doing them as a block still, if that's okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just make sure you get to cover everything you want.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Do a quick overview of this round of turf replacement grant program applications that were submitted to CWCB between August 31st and October 31st of 2024. We had 7 applications, 3 of which you are going to hear today. Thank you to the board for approving the 2 consent agenda items yesterday. Thank you to Director Risk for approving the 2 director report items on January 13th. For additional context on the overall state of the available funding, HB 241435, CWCB's projects bill, provided a $2 million cash infusion transfer from the CWCB Construction Fund with appropriation from the Turf Replacement Fund for the statewide turf replacement grant program, which is available through June 30th, 2028. The fiscal note denoted that approximately $320,000 of that amount for the turf replacement program will cover administrative expenses and term limited staff support. So this means that the grant program has a total of $1,680,000 to distribute. So contingent on board approval, and I don't want to jinx anything or get ahead of myself, but CWCB would have $469,428.50 in available funds left for cycle 2, which is currently open and will close on February 28th. Applications, agenda item 20A is for Aurora Water. This recommended request is for $100,000. The turf replacement grant program funding will help expand Aurora Water's Greatscapes program, which is a waterwise landscaping initiative that assists income qualified residents with the design and installation of water efficient landscaping at no cost to the participants. The program specifically targets residential areas that are underserved by traditional turf replacement programs. And this equity-focused approach helps participants participate in water conservation programs, minimize water consumption, and reduce water bills. I'm here if there are any questions from the board on this application. I also believe that Tim York from Aurora Water is available on the line in case you have any questions for him as well.
Questions or comments? Okay, I guess we're okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving to agenda item 20B for Colorado Springs Utilities. This recommended request is for $462,234. The turf replacement grant program funding will help Colorado Springs Utilities assist targeted properties in converting turf grass landscapes to waterwise ones in its service area. The program will fund continued testing of native grasses and focus on applications from local institutions, HOAs, and large commercial and/or education campuses. This grant program funding will support 2 types of projects. First, continue the installation of climate-based vegetation alternatives, which will include things like blue grama and/or buffalo grass seed or approved native grass mixes in waterwise plant areas with drip irrigation. The second component of the funding is testing solutions for hard-to-landscape areas. So this means native grasses for places like medians or curbside landscapes, also shade-tolerant native grasses, low-management plant beds, and low-maintenance native grass seed areas with wildflower plugs. Grant funds may cover landscape design, irrigation upgrades and maintenance, turf removal, waterwise plants, native seed installation, and ongoing maintenance through the year 3 of the project. I am again here to answer any questions that the board may have, and I believe that Julia Galucci from Colorado Springs Utilities is also on the line and available for any questions or comments.
Okay, does anybody have questions on agenda item B? Okay, guess we're good.
Agenda item 20C is for Resource Central. This recommended request is for $498,087.50. The turf replacement grant program funding will help Resource Central pilot a program to support larger property transitions to low water sustainable landscapes through tailored assessments, consultations, and actionable strategies. Resource Central would target Colorado's non-single family residential properties, including HOAs, business parks, and public spaces. These properties typically have expansive turf areas that require substantial water and maintenance, making them prime targets for water conservation efforts. The pilot program will offer water use assessments, customized consultations, and expert guidance on landscape and irrigation upgrades for 25 properties, engaging property managers, HOA board members, and other key decision makers. 9 of these properties will be selected for demonstration gardens, receiving grant support to implement irrigation retrofits and turf conversions, really showcasing just the best practices and inspiring broader adoption of long-term conservation strategies. The remaining 16 properties will receive comprehensive assessments and actionable recommendations, enabling them to pursue water-saving improvements independently or through future funding opportunities. So the overall goal of this initiative is to help form an accessible roadmap for larger scale turf conversions, promote water conservation, drought resilience, reduce maintenance costs, biodiversity support, and the creation of more attractive and functional spaces. I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have, and I believe that Kate Larson from Resource Central is also on the line available for questions.
All right, thank you, Jenna. Any questions on agenda item 20C? Can I just say how impressed I am how fast you spoke without one blunder, not one not one any. That was very impressive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it and I apologize for speaking fast.
No, it's impressive. Director McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that this is a project that we approved and the General Assembly approved, and the incentive came from the General Assembly. And I've said this before, and because of those things, I will not vote against these applications. But we're spending $1 million to save 50 acre feet of water per year, which to me, and from the perspective of the West Slope and the Gunnison Basin, is a huge investment for very little return. An investment from the Gunnison perspective will be better made in aging infrastructure that protects pre-compact water rights. I just need to make a record, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McLeod. Appreciate it. Director Boucher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize because I'm sure there's something that I'm missing here. Do you mind diving into a little bit between the 3 different projects, the differences of the price per square foot? Do you mind explaining that just a little bit, please?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Director Boucher. It's difficult to ever predict the cost of all of these different projects because they have so many different components that go into them. So, you know, depending on what the irrigation systems are looking like before, they might have to replace what's already there. They might have to upgrade that. My guidance from people who know a lot more about the actual landscaping than I do is that perennials typically cost more than native grass seed does. So it also depends on the vegetation type that they're looking at. We're seeing a wide range of costs from the first 50 turf replacement grant program recipients from last year that are pretty average with what we're looking at here. So I think because we're still in a lot of piloting positions and testing out new ways of removing, of replacing, of, you know, what vegetation works the best, what irrigation systems works the best, it's not going to level out for a bit until we can get all of those lessons learned. But these projects are trying to help us with that and help understanding how we can be more cost effective and how we can scale up. So I understand that it looks very strange when you look at the range of the cost per square foot, but this was something that we expected to come in. And I do think that this will level out the more that we learn as we go along.
Yeah, thank you very much for that answer. That helps a lot. And just in line with what Director McLeod said, I think that, you know, our continued kind of monitoring of what that looks like to develop, you know, efficiencies in doing this as, you know, way of justifying some of those dollars spent would be good going forward. So I understand that we're in kind of that pilot phase. So thank you.
Well, I had the exact same question as Director Boucher. So thanks.
All right. Anybody else with a comment? Oh, Director Vasquez, sorry, please.
Thanks so much. I have a question specifically about the Resource Central project. In your summary, it shows measurable results. But if I understand from your presentation, this is not projects on the ground, it's consultation. So is there a commitment from some participants with Resource Central that they're actually going to do the projects?
Director, and I apologize if anything was misleading. They will be executing these projects and they will solicit interest if approved for the grant funding, and then people will come in and apply, and then they will do the work on the ground with those properties. So it's
Got it.
it's their estimated results for the water savings there.
Okay, it just seemed like there was a disconnect between what I understood from your presentation and actual water savings. So I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you, Director Vasquez. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns? Yes, Dr. Brody.
Just a quick comment. I totally agree with Director McLeod. This is a lot of money when you look at it purely on a, acre feet of water saved. If it helps, the way we look at these investments when we're spending Denver water dollars is that it's as much about public outreach and education and encouraging conservation. Our hope is that for every dollar we invest, we're encouraging our customers to invest their own resources so that there's a multiplying effect. And I would just encourage staff to think about, when you're looking at sites, high visibility sites, and how do you pair it with other things that can encourage residents and commercial property owners to do this on their own and maybe reduce barriers so that it isn't just the state taxpayers or, our water plan dollars that are funding these, but we're really using it to inspire and encourage the private investment as well.
Brody. Yes, Director McLeod.
Thank you, Director Brody, and I understand and appreciate the outreach effects of this effort. But when we have diminishing resources, we in Gunnison and on the rest of the Western Slope are frustrated at the priorities that seem to be evidenced by this expenditure.
Thank you, Director McLeod. Director Vasquez, do you have another comment?
Yeah, just one more if you'll allow it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just integrating what other directors have just said. It seems to me one of the things CWCB could be doing with these projects is as much marketing as possible with the results of the programs to have the multiplying effect that was mentioned by Director Brody.
I was just gonna say, I think we're at an interesting place where we're not quite at the pilot stage of this, but we are at the beginning, and it seems like it's harder and more expensive to get things stood up and see how it's going to go. But I would reiterate what Director Brody said. I think as we move forward, to be very cognizant of the bang for the buck, and the incentive is to get all of Colorado to kind of buy in on this, not just CWCB pace for some very limited square feet. So I agree with the program. Just I think the long-term solution needs to be very deliberate in how we look at it. So if there's no other comments, I'd entertain a motion for staff recommendations on items 20A, B, and C. Director Brody.
I'm happy to move approval on staff recommendations on 20A, B, and C.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Is there a second? Director Wind, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, say it passed. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Kat, congratulations, and appreciate you being willing to step up and take on more. So
thank you. Big shoes to fill, obviously. Good morning, Kat Weiss-Miller, CWCB staff. For the record, this is agenda item 21, the water plan progress report, and this is an informational item only. As I'm speaking, Corinne and Emily will be handing out some reports to you. So today I'm introducing two staff who haven't been before the board previously, but who have contributed meaningfully to this report in their time at CWCB so far. Emily Adrid, our water planning and climate specialist, and Corinne Anderson, our data visualization and education coordinator. We have two parts of our presentation today. We'll start with a short video that we've been at work on to highlight the important work of our partners across Colorado. Then Corinne and Emily will tell you a bit more about the progress report on the table before you and answer any questions you may have. I'm excited to deliver this package today, and to those who have taken to really celebrate those who have taken up the water plan's call to action and championed partner actions across Colorado to achieve the water plan's vision. This report allows us to showcase that work across the state and offers some vignettes on project champions that we weren't able to include in the more streamlined recent water plan. If you'll recall, there were vignettes in the 2015 water plan. So we're kind of hoping to bring some of that back in this progress report. I'm also excited to share the work that's underway at the agency to achieve the water plan's goals. And to that end, this morning, we've also provided you with prints of not just the water plan progress report, but also the CWCB guide that we've discussed, and a report that we'll talk a little bit more about in March, which is the 10 strategies to protect irrigated agriculture. So these are water plan actions that we've been moving forward and have produced reports on. These can also be found online at engagecwcb.org. So we hope you'll take some time to review these, and please share any questions and thoughts you have. And going forward, we'll continue to report to the board on our work underway at CWCB to achieve the 50 agency actions in the water plan. And we encourage your interest and questions. So without further delay, let's go ahead and pull up that video.
Coloradans are taking bigger and bolder strides towards the collective water future we want to see. Local and regional projects are the driving force behind the Colorado Water Plan's partner actions. The 2023 Water Plan is organized around 4 action areas: thriving watersheds, resilient planning, robust agriculture, and vibrant communities. Each one includes a shared vision and tools that address our water challenges. We're moving from blueprint to boots on the ground, thanks to local projects from all corners of the state. East to west, north to south, we all depend on healthy watersheds. The Colorado Connectivity Channel, a project 25 years in the making, reconnected 2 impaired headwater streams, the Colorado and Fraser Rivers, by bypassing the Windy Gap Reservoir, allowing for fish and sediment passage.
I think the momentum was really gained in the late 90s when the landowner downstream identified what degrading the river had gone through. That's when Northern became interested in the conversation on how to fix it.
It's been known that there's environmental impacts with dam construction and water development. The Colorado River Connectivity Channel project was one of the key marquee environmental projects that was presented with in the Windy Gap Firming project.
Northern could maintain a water supply and we could reconnect a river without taking the dam down. It's the largest river reconnection project in the history of the state of Colorado and the single biggest healing river improvement project that we'll do in Grand County in my lifetime. The most exciting part of this project for me, it was the fact that we healed the river through a collaborative effort, a front range water diverter, and a west slope entities who are environmentally concerned, have different mission statements. That's a change of culture we're witnessing.
We had 16 different funders on this project and many other active collaborators. We have a partnership agreement that's set up that will continue 50 plus years from now, helping us come together to make this project even better in the future.
Intentional and sustainable growth requires thoughtful planning. Growing Water Smart is a training and assistance program that empowers local leaders across the state to design land use policies that advance their regional water resiliency goals.
We meet communities where they're at in their water land use integration journey. There's no community that's too small or too large to participate in our Growing Water Smart program. And a big part of our program is bringing together communities at our workshops. So we're able to provide space for communities to talk about water resource issues and hear all diverse perspectives. What's hard to capture in these workshops is the magic that happens, sort of a light bulb moment, that time of, oh yeah, that's what we're all about. That's what our community values. That's what we need for really integrating how we grow, where we grow. Nearing the end of 2024, 66% of Coloradans live in a community whose local leaders have participated in a Growing Water Smart workshop. We've seen communities go from never speaking to their utility or never speaking to their land use authority, and now they're having regular meetings.
Creating pathways to build and exchange knowledge is vital for adaptation. Drought Advisors is a network of professionals who are improving access to technical resources for drought response and preparation among Colorado's agricultural producers.
Resilience is bigger than practices. It also involves the people. Colorado State University, and specifically Extension, has been a co-lead of this project since its inception. We've also worked closely with many other organizations, and including Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. We know that people are more likely to seek advice from people they trust, and by working with this broad network of partners, we help make it possible that ranchers and farmers can approach someone that they know in their community that can support them in making a drought plan. To date, we've worked with over 40 agricultural producers in making drought plans and surveyed most of the producers who participated in the program, and all of them, 100%, said that they would recommend the program to another producer. Thanks to the initial support of the Colorado Water Conservation Board, we've recently received a $1 million grant from the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture that allows us to really scale up and continue the work that we've been doing in Colorado and reach even more producers.
Access to consistent, reliable data helps water providers manage supply into the future. Polaris is a software tool that reconciles land use and water information to model various scenarios influenced by development, population growth, and climate change. The tool also explores how water distribution networks are influenced by future conditions.
This concept of water-wise growth, water-smart growth, is something that all communities across Colorado want to pursue. Initially, the tool was developed in participation with 5 municipalities in the Front Range of Colorado, but in phase 2, we have reached out to all sorts of communities, the small communities to very large cities, to participate, share their data. The Colorado Water Conservation Board has been a great partner in terms of not only funding projects that we pursue at the One Water Solutions Institute, but also providing pragmatic knowledge, practical information, connections with the stakeholders, and contribute to the questions that we try to answer. The Polaris tool is being developed and deployed in collaboration with other state agencies and also many nonprofit organizations. I think it's really important to understand that solving these problems require partnerships to make a difference in our communities.
The need for collective action has never been more urgent. This moment demands more than the efforts of one single agency or partner. Working together, all Coloradans can be part of the solution.
To complete and continue agenda item 21, the water plan update and the water plan progress report. My name is Corinne Anderson, CWCB staff for the record, and I want to go forward. There we go. I want to start by looking at the path that led to this. Go back. The path that led to this 2-year progress report. Starting with the first water plan in 2015. followed by the 2017 first progress report titled Ripple Effects. 2019 brought the analysis and technical update, reframed from the statewide water supply initiative, followed by the basin implementation plans in 2022, and the comprehensive update of the complete water plan in 2023, which leads us to this second progress report. This one focuses primarily on case studies that exemplify the partner actions of the water plan, but we also wanted to highlight the efforts that the agency and our partner agencies have accomplished. Part of the thought process behind this report is that we wanted to elaborate on more of the personal touches, as Kat mentioned, and champions across the state that we did not necessarily include in the 2023 water plan update due to the desire to shorten that document. Our goal for this report was to help maintain and encourage momentum in water plan implementation, and to do so by showing great examples of projects that future applicants can look to for inspiration. Implementation of the water plan is divided into 50 agency and 50 partner actions. The agency actions are categorized by the 4 action areas of the water plan, which were highlighted in the video, and are targeted toward the CWCB and collaborating agencies like DOLA, CPW, and CDPHE. These are internal actions. The partner actions are really what we like to call the boots on the ground advancements and are categorized by the water plan grant funding categories listed on the slide. Partner actions are external to our agency, and they're organized by funding category because these partners apply for the funding from the CWCB, but then they must do the work on their own. Detail about the progress of the agency actions and efforts, but a quick snapshot shows that 41 of the 50 agency actions are underway or partially completed. 12% have secured funding. This is very important because although we are required by statute to do the water plan, we are not funded aside from our baseline budget. And so we come to the board to seek funding through NRI requests and severance tax operations, and that's how we achieve these agency actions. 38% have had workshops, stakeholder meetings, gathered data, or commissioned research. This means that we can confidently say that we are at 20% completion of agency actions in the first 2 years of the water plan. This slide also shows those 4 action areas as a reminder. Aside from the 41 actions that are underway, 3 are considered complete and represent 3 of the 4 focus areas. 1.7 within the Vibrant Communities action area identifies turf replacement options that support transformative landscape change. We will have the final report of that published by March. 2.6 is one of the reports that we handed out to you, and this is within the Robust Agriculture action area, and it looks at assessing the economic opportunities of avoided buy and dry to communities. 3.3 is within the Thriving Watersheds action area, and this was the creation of a wildfire-ready watersheds framework, which you all are undoubtedly already familiar with and continues to provide valuable information and support to Colorado communities in a way that underlines the fact that the CWCB's financial assistance to eligible entities in Colorado is what moves the progress of the water plan forward. And so we looked back at the total awarded funds for fiscal years 2023 and 2024 from the major funding sources we provide. And here they are: $232.7 million in water project loans, $97.8 million in projects bill grants, $20.5 million in WSRF grants, and nearly $38 million in water plan grants. These are impressive numbers that we are proud to publish, and we acknowledge with gratitude that the board has been integral in approving these grant applications and reviewing funding. I'll pass it off to my colleague Emily to talk about the partner actions and the format of the rest of the report.
And thank you, Kat. Emily Adrid, CWCB staff for the record. So the companion to the agency efforts and actions that Corinne covered are the partner actions. The partner actions are efforts, initiatives, and projects happening outside of the agency and advanced concepts in the water plan that we can't do necessarily on our own at CWCB. We know that the idea of partner actions is a new one, and there is a lot of collaboration involved. The beauty of the partner actions is that we get to see the vision of the water plan being brought to life. The local and regional organizations and partners, like Corinne had mentioned, are truly the boots on the ground, moving ideas forward, utilizing the funding opportunities our agency provides via our grant and loan programs. The funding numbers that Corinne mentioned on the previous slide have been used to fund partner actions thus far. And so throughout the majority of this report, we focus mostly on water plan grant awardees as exemplary case studies that showcase collaborative partner actions. So this is a nice breakdown of what is featured in the report. In total, we feature 17 projects that cover all 9 basins, and we made sure to include projects that fall into the 4 water plan action areas. Vibrant communities in blue, robust agriculture in yellow, thriving watersheds in green, and resilient planning in purple. We also made sure to highlight projects from each of our 5 water plan grant funding categories. And it was important for us to feature this diverse set of projects that we fund in all of the diverse regions of our state. Is designed and laid out this way in the report. This example is the Colorado Connectivity Channel. We have the title with the green highlight because it falls under the Thriving Watersheds action area. We summarize the project on the left-hand side. On the upper right-hand side, we have more project details, including grant awardees, partner projects, water plan grants awarded, and total CWCB funding. Importantly, we wanted to differentiate the water plan grant award from the total CWCB funding because we want to showcase the full picture of what CWCB has provided to each project. And also, if there were multiple water plan grant awards, we made sure to list each individual award. On the bottom right-hand side, we spotlight the organization or a specific person that had a significant impact on the outcomes and success of each project. We decided to include this for a couple of reasons. One, we wanted to add a personal touch, giving a face and a name to these projects. We really rely on them and know that our partners have worked really hard and the projects wouldn't be possible without them. And second, we did this so that readers of the report have the opportunity to reach out to those who are leading the project if interested. Up here and bring us kind of back to the big picture. The water plan outlines agency actions that CWCB will take over the next decade, 8 years now. We are 2 years into the updated water plan, and we are 20% of the way to achieving our actions, which makes us on track for completing all actions by 2033, when the next comprehensive water plan is scheduled to be updated. The agency will continue the analysis and tech update, the basin implementation plans, and the comprehensive water plan update. With all the work happening at the agency, this report illuminates both agency and partner actions and encourages further work on both sides. Lastly, but importantly, the report will be available in Spanish and English, in print and online at engagecwcb.org. And we will take any comments or questions if there are any.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Me?
Not a question, but I just wanted to express how impressed I am, not just by these reports, first of all, but the work of the CWCB is so broad and varied and impressive. And it's just amazing. Like the quality of these reports really gets across incredibly well, the breadth and quality of that work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Anybody else? Thank you for the work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item 22, Anna.
Good morning, Anna Moss, CWCB staff. This is a quick informational only item to update you all on the DNR performance plan. This is part of what we outlined when we did the operational planning effort over the last couple of years and looked at the calendar, we promised that we would come back to you every year and give an update on the water plan. So thank you so much to Kat and her team for that effort. And then also on the performance plan, we chose January intentionally because it aligns with the SMART Act hearing when we get to highlight all of the good work that the DNR does. And so I think that Nate talked about that a little bit yesterday too. So the SMART Act was on January 15th, so just a few weeks ago. And this is really an opportunity for the DNR to highlight all of the good work that was done in the past year and look at that performance plan, but also look at the current year and the goals that we're working on that are underway at this moment. So there was a brief presentation on the CWCB's work and kind of a history of what we do. And you all know that, but not all the members of the General Assembly know that. And then we were also able to highlight work that happened last year. So the water plan progress, a lot of what was just noted to you was noted at that hearing. We also talked about wildfire ready watersheds. There was a status update on the Colorado River. So a lot of good things happened there. Also during the hearing, there was a highlight of the wildly important goals that are part of Governor Polis's administration related to water. He's got a series of goals, but the water one is about advancing agency actions in the water plan and partner actions. And so, as you know, the progress report is complete. So we can check that one off of our list already for the current fiscal year. Other work that's underway is looking at transformative landscape change, those local projects, the DIY guide on turf removal, and the state of the science report on turf removal. And I think that was sort of highlighted in Jenna's report too. I think there's an interest from this board in that space too. So that'll be good to see that work. Like there's a lag here when I hit this, so sorry. And I want to just draw your attention. There is a link in the agenda item for your, in the memo here that links back to the DNR performance plan. But in there, we get to highlight all of the hard work that this agency does every year. And I don't need to go through every one of these. And what's interesting is, you know, Joshua did that great presentation on loans yesterday. And there's just one bullet here that says, you know, we did a huge number of loans in the last fiscal year and a huge number of grants. And you think about all that effort that goes into that behind the scenes for every single one of those dollars. It's a pretty big lift. Kat and Corinne and Emily did a great job of just talking through the agency actions, partner actions. They also released a climate change in Colorado report in the last year. There was the Urban Landscape Conservation Task Force final report, the Growing Water Smart workshops that were highlighted in the video. There's Colorado Water Loss Initiative training happening. There was work done on water loss reporting requirements, conservation and drought plans. The flood section worked on a report that they delivered to FEMA. It was the Enhanced State Hazard Mitigation Plan. On the in-stream flow section, Rob's team appropriated 1 natural lake level protection and 11 in-stream flow rights covering 66 miles of streams. The flood team continued to work on LiDAR acquisition. As you know, interstate and federal team is always hard at work, so they worked a lot on recovery programs. A ton of work went into the Colorado River negotiations, and then Cole went through yesterday all of the work on the ARPA side. So there's a lot that was highlighted, and it looks like a short list in there, and there's just a huge lift that goes on. So I wanted to make sure that staff knows that you all know all that hard work that happens behind the scenes. Report. We had actually, this is the look forward goals rather. So we have 2 goals that we're working on this year. So the first one is advancing agency actions. And so we are on track there. Our second goal is tied to advancing partner actions. And so what we've pivoted to in the goal for this year is looking at the dollars available to dollars awarded for grants, and then also outreach across every water plan grant category area. So we have our new grants unit with all of our regional team now reporting to Janine Shaw. So they're tracking all those outreach efforts, making sure that we're really trying to connect with every one of those categories and bring as many high quality projects in as we can. And so that we thought we would measure that because that's within our control and something that we can easily report out. So that's what we're working on right now. And then just a reminder for how this works on an annual basis. So about this time of year, we'll be looking to the next year, working with Dan and his team at the EDO on our goals for next year. We'll kind of finalize that at the end of this fiscal year. We'll do a look back and get what we accomplished this year into our report that happens at the end of the year. And then around the budget time next year, we'll release the goals for next year, and then we'll come back to you and report back again. So that's that cycle that happens with those. So really nothing but good news, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
There we go. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Anna. And I should have probably said it last time. I think, you know, these are great reports. Thanks for reaching out to the Department of Ag to help with this, the 10 strategies for protecting ag. The next step is for us to really get this out there into the communities, and I'm committed to that. So if there's ways that all of you think that we should be going, whether it's to county commissioners, whether it's city councils, wherever, happy to be on the road to get the message out there, because I think that's the next important next step. Thanks for the report. I really appreciate it. It is amazing, the DNR report, as I glanced through it. On the Colorado Water Plan, there was a link for a different video, and I watched that one. That's pretty cool. So that I think it was the one young lady that submitted comments for the draft water plan. She was included in that video, it looked like. Shano, or I can't even pronounce her name, but that was a cool video. So if you haven't looked at the video, check out the link in the report. It is another great video about the water plan. So good job.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you. We didn't agree. Nothing but good news. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. We have one for public comment. Ken Brenner.
Good morning, Water Conservation Board and Chair, staff. My name is Ken Brenner. I live in the Yampa Valley near Steamboat Springs. I am also serve as the chair of the Headwaters of the Colorado Initiative, and we had some good news that we wanted to share. This was a large collaborative. It's 1.9 million acres, about half in Wyoming and half in Colorado, basically north from Steamboat and Craig all the way to the Continental Divide. This is building on the legacy of the work that was accomplished by Pat O'Toole, who passed last February, and the work in the Conservation District with Larry Hicks. Senator Larry Hicks runs that, and all of the work that they've done over the last 25 years, working with the BLM and NRCS and both state and federal U.S. Forest Service there in Wyoming and northern Colorado. So we had a tragedy this last summer where the coordinator that we had just hired to run the program, as it was just really getting started as a coordinating group, and we just got him replaced Sunday. So we're pretty excited that we actually have a staff in place again, because I am definitely not qualified to be staff. And so I've been kind of impersonating during that period of time. But we have also received the good news on the 18th of January from the Bucket 2E that our area received 3 different grants. There was one in the city of Steamboat Springs on the confluence of Walton Creek and the Yampa River. It's a major restoration project that Julie Baxter in the city, Kelly Romero Heaney, I think actually initiated a lot of that work. And Jackie, of course, has been supporting that as well. But the Headwaters group had 2 different ones. One that was more focused on the river and the Little Snake, and that was came out of the Conservation District with Larry, and they were awarded $8.6 million. And then there's a multi-state award from Russ Bacon and the U.S. Forest Service that came back at $32.6 million. So provided that the new administration sees that the real value in these, I know Senator Barrazo has already reached out to them to help explain that this is a really important collaboration, and it means a lot as far as creating a lot of jobs. Larry is very well known in that area, is not only writing great grants, but training and employing most of the people in the Little Snake Valley, at least at some point, doing all of this restoration work. So lots of good news up there. I just wanted to give you an update. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for all the hard work you do.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate you being here. Oh, Director Vasquez.
Is it okay if I ask a question to Mr. Brenner?
Sure, if he's open to it.
Yeah.
Yes, Director Vasquez.
Yeah, just curious what the Colorado Wyoming project is that got the the 32.6 million.
It's a variety of different forest health initiatives. It'll include the beaver dam analogs. There'll be some product removal. There's a lot of mastication work done. It's the planning effort that's going on. We have simultaneous projects that are continuing the work that's been done by the Conservation District in the past, only on an expanded area. But there's also two different planning efforts going on, one for Water Smart with the Bureau of Reclamation and the Wildfire Ready Watershed. Those awards have just been received here in the last month and a half. So we will, we're just about ready to finalize the RFP and see which contractor we're going to hire. It'll be a coordinated planning effort. And so we will be identifying the full scope of the work that we're going to plan for the money that we've already been awarded. So not really sure. It's kind of a race between planning and projects right now.
Well, I hope the money actually flows to you for that project. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vasquez, is there anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, with the public comment, then turn a little time over to, I'll tell you, that's it. Mr. Scott, we'll have you. Do you have your hand up? I'm sorry. Okay. Please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Wendell Kuntz, Chair of the Gunnison Basin Roundtable and also Delta County Commissioner. I want to thank you guys for your service here and good luck to Greg and others as you find new adventures in life. I had three things I'd like to address with the board today. One, I'd like to echo Director McLeod's concern about our WSRF funding. For us in rural Colorado, which for the Gunnison Basin is Gunnison, Montrose, and Delta counties, we depend on WSRF funding for so many of our projects. The lowest hanging fruit is our aging infrastructure. And whatever we can do to restore severance monies back to these projects would be greatly appreciated. Second thing I had for you was the Gunnison Basin Roundtable is actively looking to update our BIP project list for 2025. This is very aspirational. There's over 500 projects on this spreadsheet. It's hard enough just to see them on the spreadsheet, let alone figure out which ones are complete, which ones are in progress, and new ones need to be added. So we hope to have that done in 2025. And the last thing I have is agrivoltaics. I was visiting with Director Sakata and Ken just a few minutes ago. Delta County is home to the largest agrivoltaic project on irrigated lands in Colorado that I can find. It's called the Garnet Mesa Solar Project. I'd encourage you to Google it. It's 800 acres, 80 megawatts, several 100,000 solar panels going on irrigated lands in Peach Valley, just east of the city of Delta. This is a minimum 30-year project, more likely 50-year. My concern is how sustainable a project is like this. How do you maintain agrivoltaics on irrigated lands with grazing for 50 years underneath all these panels? Because for Colorado to meet their renewable energy goals for 2030, let alone 2050, we need 250,000 acres to go underneath panel. And a lot of that's going to go on irrigated lands. And the nexus of food, water, and energy is coming to a head. And I encourage you guys to keep your eyes on the ball here, because we as community leaders, water leaders, like Director Sakata here, in the food production business, it means a lot to us. Not only do we have to provide clean drinking water and irrigation water, but we have to power our society and feed our people. To Director Cloud's point on humanity, it's coming together. So I encourage you guys to keep your eye on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions? What's that?
You're an ag joke.
Yes, we always want to hear an ag joke.
Why do chicken coops only have 2 doors? They had 4 doors, it'd be a chicken sedan.
Nice. Well done. Commissioner Coots, thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. We really do appreciate the public taking the time to come and address the board and be involved. Guess that's it. We'll go to Mr. Scott, please.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Coontz. Just so you know, we've been having some conversations at the Department of Ag, just that nexus of energy and agriculture. So we're contemplating an idea of putting on a seminar or something, because we're hearing not only just installation of solar panels, but just infrastructure easements to get the lines through property. So it's really having an impact on agriculture. So it's definitely on our radar, but thanks for providing that comment today. Thanks.
All right. There's no one online, Viola? We're good. Okay. Before we conclude, we're going to give Robert a little time to give us some instructions for what happens next here, since we're about to adjourn.
Okay, yeah. So those of you joining us for the Colorado Farm Show tour, the bus is going to leave at noon today. About 11:45. Yeah. So as soon as we can finish lunch, it's about an hour and a half drive up there. So as soon as we can finish lunch, and then when we get up there, it's just going to be the Wild West. We'll just allow you all to just enjoy the farm show wherever you want to go. There are breakout sessions going on. You're happy. I can show you the agenda if you want to go to any of those, and then we'll plan to have dinner in Greeley, and then so we won't be back here till about 8:30. For those of you that are driving, there is a $5 parking charge. So if you could be sure to take $5 cash to pay for the parking, and let me know, those of you that are driving, I'll put you on a group text so I can show you exactly where we're meeting up. Does that sound all right?
Okay, so we'll meet out front a little bit before 12 to get on the bus.
Yeah, 12:45. So yeah, dress a little warm. It's cooler, and comfortable shoes. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. What I heard was it's permission to be Wild West, so. No, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody trying to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and we'll adjourn. Dadgummit. Thank you, Viola. I think, does Jessica want to make a motion?
I'll motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Director Boucher seconded it. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.